Hello and welcome back to Just Meg Elise, a podcast about healing, remembering who you are, and diving into deeper alignment. I'm Meg, and I'll be your host. So today I want to talk about holding space for others when they're going through stuff. What does that mean to hold space? It means sitting with someone's pain or discomfort without trying to fix it, just listening with empathy and being there for them. So some common misconceptions: it doesn't mean being silent when they're talking. It doesn't mean being their therapist. It's simply creating a connection of safety and warmth between you and another person who's sharing this thing that might be hard or painful for them. And we also have to consider self-regulation when we're listening to somebody else's story, because sometimes it can be triggering to something that's happened to us, right? Somebody's telling us something that we've also gone through, and it might be triggering, so we have to learn to breathe through that, regulate our own emotions during that. I've done previous episodes on how we can regulate our emotions to not only support ourselves through that conversation, but to also be able to support them. We're supporting ourselves to be able to support them. So there are some other things that I want to talk about today too, that it might seem like you're holding space for somebody, but actually you're creating more disconnection. And all of us are guilty of these things. I am guilty of these things, and I'm actively working to try and fix them. So the first thing is interrupting. When they're talking, interrupting and like blurting out what you want to say. I am so guilty of this throughout my life. I think it has to do with ADHD and the fact that it's like if I don't tell them what I'm thinking in that moment, I'll forget it. But I'm realizing nothing is ever that important to interrupt another person. Like, I really am trying not to do that anymore, because when you're interrupting somebody, it makes them feel like what they're saying isn't important as what you're saying. Another thing that we tend to do is we tend to give like a story to say, that's happened to me too. For example, when they share their story, we'll come and say, oh, I've been there too. That thing happened to me, and blah, 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 blah. And I get what we're trying to do. We're trying to create connection. We're trying to explain, like, I'm so sorry you're going through that. I've been through that too, and I understand. However, a lot of times the other person doesn't take it that way. They take it like, here I am being vulnerable, trying to share my story, and here you are interrupting my story and turning it back on you. So it makes it seem like we're centering ourselves during that conversation when we bring up something from our own past that we've gone through that's similar to what they've gone through. So one thing that I'm trying to do now is I'm trying not to go into my own story about it. You can say, oh man, I've been there too, and allow them to continue talking. You're allowed to say that, to just confirm that, like, I'm so sorry you've been there. I've experienced that too, so I completely understand what you're going through. So it's okay to just quickly say, oh man, I've been there too. I get what you're going through. But don't then allow that to spin it into your own story about what happened when they're still sharing their own story. After they're done sharing, they might ask you, hey, so what happened with you with that one? You said you went through something similar. Tell me about that. Then that's an invitation for you to bring that up. But when they're sharing something really hard and difficult, it's important that we're very present for their story and not interjecting our own right in that moment. Another thing that we can sometimes do is like be looking at our phones or looking at our smartwatch or whatever when somebody is starting to share something really vulnerable. It's important that you are present with them. First of all, it's important that we're present at any time when our friends are around. We shouldn't be like looking at our phones when our friends are talking. That should never really happen unless you just have to check a message. It's important, whatever. But expressing that to them. Hold on one second, I have to check my phone. I'm expecting an important message. Expressing that, not just looking at your phone and not explaining why. Because your friend or your family or your partner, whatever, your child, whatever, is going to see that action as this device and whatever's going on in this device is more important than me. And it can be really hurtful, especially if, again, they're sharing something really vulnerable or painful with you in that moment. We can also sometimes go into fixer mode. And I get why we do this. It's like, especially if we've been through that experience, we know what helped us, so we want to share that with this other person. However, a lot of times fix-it mode is not what they want. You can ask, would you like some advice about, I went through a similar situation. Would you like some advice? You can ask that. But just straight going into fixer mode is kind of sometimes super unhelpful, because here's why it's unhelpful for me. And then I think it applies to other people as well. My brain, it's already come up with the solution. Like, even if I'm going through something difficult, it's usually already come up with the solution, but it was still a hard experience. It was still a hard moment. And I just want to talk to my friends or my family about that and just talk through it. And I really just want empathy. I'm just seeking empathy. I just want them to say, I'm so sorry you went through that. You didn't deserve that. You didn't deserve to go through that. And I'm here for you. That's all I want. That's it. I don't need them to be my fixer. I don't need them to fix anything. I don't really need advice unless I ask them for advice, but sometimes we can often go straight into fixer mode, and that's not what they're looking for. And it can actually feel I know with me, it has felt very like deflating at times because I'm like, I've already thought of that. I haven't said this to the person, but let's say I'm sharing a story and then they go into fixer mode. I'm thinking to myself, I've already thought of that. I've already thought of that. And then I have to explain to them why I've already thought of that and why this is not the answer. And it takes me out of just simply them being there for me and me sharing my story. It takes us out of that and it takes us into fixer mode, when that's not really necessarily what people need in that moment. Again, if they need that, they'll ask for that. They'll say, what do you think? What's your advice? Or you can ask, I've been through something similar. Would you like my advice? And that's how you should go about that moving forward. So another thing that we can tend to do is we go into fear mode. So very common things are fix it or fear mode. And I love my mother, but she does this a lot. Like when I'm sharing something with her that's hard, she'll go directly into one of two modes, fix it or fear. So she'll either point out things to try and fix things. And I get that this is coming from a place of love, like they don't want you suffering, or maybe they've been through a similar situation. So they're trying to share, well, what have you tried this? Have you tried this? But a lot of times my brain has already thought through all of those things. And it's now more energy I'm having to expend to explain to you that, yes, I've already thought through all of those things. And I'm not looking for fix it right now. I'm just looking for empathy. And then that's more mental energy that we're having to expend to explain, like, I don't need fixer right now. I just need my friend. And then the other thing that she'll sometimes go into, and a lot of people are guilty of this, I've been guilty of this before, is fear mode. So let's say, like, I just recently quit my job about 6 months ago at that law firm, and I was talking to this was a newer friend about it, and she's like, oh, that money's going to be tight, and should you have done that? The job market's really tough right now. And so she went directly into fear mode, and that was hard because I'm like, I'm already thinking those things and you're just exacerbating it. You're making the anxiety worse. Like, you don't need to point out the things that they need to be fearful of. They already know. That's probably why they're coming to you to talk about those things. And so it just made me feel even worse because I thought, I can't fix that I quit. It's done now. I can't fix the job market. That is what it is. And like, I already know those things, and I knew those things even going into making that decision. It's like I got to a point where I just couldn't work there any longer. It was so tough on my nervous system. I had to say goodbye. But they weren't looking at it that way. They weren't congratulating me for having the courage to walk away, which is often what that friend is wanting from you. Oh my gosh, I'm so proud of you for making that decision. Those are the type of things they're wanting you to say to them. They're wanting validation. They're wanting empathy from their friend. But instead, we go into fear or fix it mode, which again is not helpful, especially fear mode. They have already thought of all of the things you're pointing out to them, and you pointing it out to them is making it worse in this moment when they're just wanting empathy. They're just wanting presence and for you to hold space for them. So when someone is struggling or in pain, I wrote down some things that might be helpful for you to say instead of going into fear, fix it, etc. So one thing that you could say is, I'm so sorry that happened to you. You didn't deserve that. Or, that sounds heavy. I'm really glad you felt safe enough to share it with me. Also, I can hear how much that's impacting you. I'm here for you. You could also say, you don't have to carry this alone. I'm here for you. You can say, there's nothing wrong with how you're feeling. That's completely normal, and I completely understand. You could say, I've been there too, but don't allow I've been there too to then go into your own story about what happened. You could also say, it makes sense that you'd be feeling that way after everything. And instead of the advice, instead of the fix it mode, instead of saying you should, blah, 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 you could say, would it be helpful if I shared some advice because I went through a similar situation? Or are you just wanting someone to listen right now? It's okay to ask those things. It's okay to ask for clarity, because some people in certain situations, they might want advice. But again, a lot of times if they want advice, they're going to ask you for that. They're going to say, what do you think? That sort of thing. And you can also say to them, I'm holding space for whatever you need right now. You can say that to them. People want to hear those things. People want to know that you're being present with them. And also, I wanted to toss out a few things. Let's say they're talking about something really hard and you don't have the words. You can say, I don't have the perfect words for you right now, but I'm here for you. You don't have to have the perfect words, but just being there for your friend is important. I know certain friends have gone through things and they're telling me, and I'm like, I don't even have words. I'm so sorry. That's okay. It's okay to not have the right words. But just telling them, I'm here for you and I'm so sorry you went through that. That sounds incredibly hard. And just saying, I'm here with you and you're not alone. And then also after they're done sharing, asking them, Do you need a hug? Do you need anything? Do you want me to go make you a cup of tea? What is it that I can give you right now? And a lot of times people do really want a hug. So I remember reading this once about hugs, that if they're a certain amount of time, like it has certain health benefits, but I wanted to look up the information to give you the exact right information. So here it is. The Cleveland Clinic reports that hugs between 5 and 10 seconds are effective in mental health benefits. Another source says that 20-second hugs can significantly boost feel-good hormones like oxytocin and lower stress by reducing cortisol. So with that, when you're hugging someone, especially if you're the person comforting another person, don't be the first one to let go, okay? I know it's like our society has bred us to think that like hugging for too long is uncomfortable or hugging for too long is weird. No, your friends especially, and your partners and your children, they need that. They need that extra like human touch, and for you to tell them it's okay. And if they start crying, it's okay. They may have really needed that release, and you were there for them to allow for that. And that's something really special and something that you should be proud of as the person holding space for that other person. But yeah, don't be the first one to let go. I try and think about this every single time I hug someone. Like, I want to be the weird one who's holding on for too long because I don't care. If I'm hugging somebody, I care about you. I don't just hug anybody. And so like, I want you to know how much I care about you. And if you need a 15-second hug, but I'm pulling away, they often feel like they have to pull away when that other person is pulling away. And I don't want to stop you from hugging me if you need a longer hug, So I've just really tried to not be the first one to pull away. When they pull away, then I pull away. So that's my little rule with hugging, because people really do, gosh, especially after the pandemic, it's like we lost personal touch with people, and we lost being close to our loved ones. We're not as in close vicinity with our loved ones as we once were. And so just every opportunity that we get to hug them, to hold their hand, to place our hand on their shoulders if they're going through something, like all of that matters. It matters. I'm crying because I'm thinking about all the times that like I really needed a hug. And I do have some good friends who will like give me a long hug, and I appreciate them because we all need that. It's sometimes hard for us to admit that we need like a hug because it feels, I don't know, childish or something. I can't quite place my finger on the right wording, but it feels like wrong to want a really long hug. But it's not. It's as I've shared with different studies that have taken place, a hug is incredibly beneficial for us. And especially if your friend, family, partner, whoever you're holding space for, especially if they're going through something, that hug can be incredibly beneficial to them and to you. So you guys know I love journaling prompts. I wrote down some journaling prompts to go into this a little bit deeper. And again, you can write them down on pen and paper, or you can just answer them to yourself as I ask them right now. When I'm in pain, what do I wish most someone would say to me? Okay. First of all, keep that in mind. And you can tell other people that when you're going through something. You're like, I wish you would just say to me, blah, 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 blah. You're allowed to tell people that. But also keep that in mind, because a lot of times other people are going to want to hear that. So what you're wanting to hear, other people are probably wanting to hear as well. So it could be things like, I'm so sorry you're going through that. You don't deserve that. Other people want to hear that too. And we lead best by example. When we start being that type of friend for others, that type of person and supportive pillar for others, they are able to then mirror that back to us. What do I notice in my body when somebody truly holds space for me? You probably feel supported, loved, appreciated, And so imagining how that other person feels when you do that for them. Here's another one. What grounding practices help me return to presence? So sometimes, and I struggle with this big time because I have ADHD, my mind will sometimes like go off on a tangent when other people are talking, and then I have to be like, focus, Megan, focus. And I hate that I have that mechanism within me that, sometimes I can't hold attention as long as I wish that I could. First of all, having compassion for ourselves is super important in those moments. But also like having things that we can say to ourselves to bring us back. So when I notice my mind has shifted and I'm not paying attention to the person in front of me, I'll say, focus, Megan, focus. Inside my head, I'll say, focus, focus. So even people without ADHD, I think that could be helpful. Our attention spans are so low nowadays, unfortunately, because of all the short form videos. But, if somebody's talking and we're not we've lost the focus. We've lost we've lost our own attention focusing on that person. It's okay to say inside your mind, focus, pay attention. So going back to what grounding presence, what returns me to presence, focus, saying focus, but also like doing some deep breathing while they're talking. People don't have to notice that you're doing deep breathing. It's just a slow inhale, filling up the lungs, and a slow exhale. You can't really tell I'm doing it, but it is important to regulate your own nervous system, especially if somebody else is telling you like a really hard story and maybe it's triggering something that you've gone through as well. It's important that we regulate our nervous system during those moments. Actually, let's try that now, the deep breathing together where nobody knows you're doing it, because this is an important tool to have just throughout your life. Let's say you're sitting in an office and you sit really close to other people and you don't want them seeing you doing breathing exercises for whatever reason, who knows, but you're able to do this in any moment. So let's do some deep breathing now in a way that others wouldn't be able to notice. So just deeply inhaling through the nose, exhale through the nose or through the mouth. Once more, deeply inhale. So really filling up the lungs, maybe not filling them up completely, but filling them up maybe at 80%, and then exhale slowly. And really extending that exhale. The extension of the exhale is engaging the parasympathetic nervous system, telling the body it's okay to relax. So once more, deep inhale. Deep, soft inhale through the nose. And slow exhale through the nostrils or through the mouth. So again, you barely noticed I was doing that. I did close my eyes, so if people were looking from afar, they would know I was doing that. But you don't have to close your eyes in that moment. And just doing that when somebody is speaking to you as well can be super helpful. So again, holding space for someone else, it doesn't mean fixing. It means witnessing what's going on with them without judgment. And just being there for them and showing them empathy and compassion. It's not going into fix-it mode. It's not going into, I went through the same thing, here's my story, and interrupting them. It's not going into fear mode, because that's often not helpful. It's just being there for them, being empathetic to what they're going through. Because often, what do you want in those situations? Think about what you want. Other people want those same things. Think about it this way. If you went to somebody and you were like really feeling anxious about a certain situation or fearful of something that was going to happen, and you went to another person and you started talking to them about that, and then they were like, oh my God, yeah, that is something to be fearful about. And what if this happened? And what if this happened? That's going to just make you feel worse. That's what's happening when you are going into fix it or fear mode for another person. It's like amplifying the things that they're already feeling or they're already worried about. And it's just not helpful a lot of the times. I totally get that those things are coming from a place of love, especially the fix-it aspect. Like, we don't want our friends, family, children, whatever, partners to suffer. And we're like, oh man, I've been through that too. And this is how I helped myself. So I have to share this with them. You don't have to, you have to ask. And I'm learning this myself as well. Like, we have to ask, I went through something similar. Would you like some advice? And being okay with their answer. If they say, no, it's okay, I've kind of thought this through already, being okay with that. It's okay. Sometimes people don't want advice in that moment. Again, they just want your empathy and they just want your presence. So thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you want to go deeper on your healing journey, there are many different ways to connect. You can purchase my book, Don't You Dare. It's available on Amazon. If you want to learn more about the ego voice or dive into shadow work, I think it's a beautiful tool for that. I also have my most loved meditation bundle available for purchase, and everything I'm talking about is going to be linked below in the show description notes. So most platforms are just going to have one link, and if you click on that link, it'll take you to all of the things, but some platforms are going to have like a specific link for each one. I also have a course called the Affirmation Reset course. This helps you to rewire negative and limiting beliefs. I also offer one-on-one coaching and hypnotherapy services. If you're interested in a session with me, you can click that link, or you can go to my website, meganshirey.com. And that's how you spell my name right there. I also offer a free live guided meditation every Sunday morning on the Insight Timer app. It is at 10 Eastern, 9 Central, 8 Mountain, 7 Pacific. And please also join us on Patreon for meditations, behind the scenes reflections, and a soft healing community space. And if you enjoy these episodes, please like, share, comment, and subscribe. And please leave us a review. It helps us to reach more listeners. May you be happy. May you be well. May you be joyous and at ease. Sending you infinite love and light. And until next time.